Welcome everyone back to weekly weather updates, and in today's video you're going to have the latest from the live radar. We're over the latest UKV, have a look at the precipitation and the temperature over the next 5 days, as we aren't going to see that very cold air that was flirting with us within the model output a few days ago, but we are still going to remain pretty cold at the surface as we head into the weekend and the start of next week. We've still got a lot of cold air trapped at the surface, so I doubt for many temperatures will get above 5 or 6 degrees by day, and probably will get well below freezing as we do have higher pressure building in and some clearer skies at times as well. So still really cold through the weekend, just not that wintry, very cold easterly that some models were promising a few days ago. It is very close by that air, but pretty much all runs now have it just about hanging out in the North Sea and across the near continent. All you'd have to do is go about 500 miles eastwards towards Germany, for example, where it is absolutely bitterly cold as we do head into the next week or so. Now, we'll have a look at the latest longer-range charts after that, as there still is a lot of uncertainty about what happens with that high into the final 10 days of the month. We saw some runs yesterday, continuing to keep it around, potentially even building it back towards Scandinavia again. Other runs, and more perhaps today, showing a breakthrough of those westerly winds, perhaps something a bit more stormy coming in for the end of February, which would be pretty typical, of course, after a failed very cold spell. A classic stormy spell always follows generally. So yeah, we'll have to wait and see, but definitely some inklings of that this evening. We'll look at that in the second half of the video. So do remember, if you enjoy my videos, make sure you like and subscribe. And remember to follow me on Twitter as well, the link's in the description. Now, as you start on the live radar, you can see we are starting to see this battle between the very cold air and the mild Atlantic air starting to develop. As I said, though, the cold Arctic air will lose out. It is just flirting with our east coast at the moment, but it will lose out. We will see that milder Atlantic air moving in. Now, for most, it's dry this evening and temperatures will drop away accordingly, well below freezing for many, as we do have clearer skies and cold air in place. You can see that the Atlantic is trying to push in with this weather front, and it will have a bit of success, but nothing too crazy. It'll be very slow progress, but on its leading edge, there is the risk of some quite heavy snow as it comes up against the cold continental air. Now, I'm recording this around 8 PM, and you can see apart from the far southwest, temperatures are well down this evening towards freezing, if not below freezing. But then look out to our east, where temperatures are starting to really drop away, and this will get more severe over the coming hours. You can see all these pinks and purples consuming Scandinavia. This will push further southwards, and it will be bitterly cold across much of Central and Eastern Europe as we do head through the coming days. You can already see that transition to cold air is already leaving some very heavy snow across much of Germany, Poland, down towards the Czech Republic, down towards the Alps. We've even seen some heavy snow towards the Netherlands and Belgium. So yeah, really close by to us, but not going to work out this time. Now, do look at the latest UKV now. You can see that weather front continuing to push in over the coming hours, not making too much success into Friday, but having some success in giving a bit of rain in that far western areas. Into Friday afternoon, lots of sunshine developing. Cold, crisp day, but sunny, which is a big contrast to what we've seen recently. As we progress through Friday into Saturday, a bit more cloud building in as those weather fronts make more of an approach. There is the risk of some further snow on the leading edge of this weather front. Yesterday we saw a bit more in the way of extensive snow along this, but that was with a slightly stronger block. Instead, the precipitation pushes a bit further northwards and eastwards at quite a speed, and that means that more of this would fall as rain. But still some snow developing in places coming up against that very cold air. We'll look at those upper end temperatures in a minute, and you'll see how stark that contrast is. As we head through Saturday into Sunday, potentially some further snow as the cold air does win out for a time through the second half of the weekend, but ever so slowly into early next week, you can start to see those southwesterly winds start to win out more, and eventually we will all be going into the milder air from the southwest. Now, do put on the upper air temperatures at the moment, you can see it's chilly. not very cold, but definitely well below average air. But you can see it is slowly losing its intensity and getting pushed away by those Atlantic air masses. A real battle, as I said, through this weekend, with very little movement in those lines. And you can see eventually into the weekend, the milder air wins out for a time, cold air perhaps re-emerges for a brief period of time, and it looks like we could see the exceptionally cold air there on Sunday. Look at that, minus 13 degrees just out in the North Sea. That would be getting towards Beast from the East Territory. But we don't see that moving in. Eventually, the cold air just flirting with the east coast get pushed back away, and we go back into the southwesterlies. So you can see a real battle sets up for a good 3 or 4 days, but eventually those southwesterlies do win out. I know a lot of people will be disappointed with that, but you could just see how close we were to bringing in that exceptionally cold air, a matter of a couple hundred miles, but instead we do see those southwesterlies winning out, and that could spell the end of any cold risk in February. Once those southwesterlies get going, that could be it as we do head through the rest of meteorological winter. Now, if you look at the latest max temperatures, you can see through this evening, temperatures well below freezing for quite a few, down towards -1, -2 into Friday morning. Into the afternoon, not getting much above that 4 or 5 degree mark, but with sunshine, it will feel quite a bit better than it has been recently. Into Saturday, another frost in the east, but milder in the southwest, and then into the afternoon, a really quite cold day. Under the precipitation and thicker cloud further northwards, towards freezing perhaps, elsewhere 3 to 7 degrees. Into Sunday, similar story, cold in central and eastern areas, and into Sunday afternoon, temperatures even lower, 1 to 4 degrees, 12 degrees across the west coast of the Republic of Ireland, and that is because that milder air is having a lot more of an influence. Monday, similar story, frost in the morning, temperatures not much above 3 to 7 degrees, and eventually into Tuesday, another widespread frost, and by the afternoon, again, still chilly, but those temperatures starting to nudge up, and that will continue over the coming days, and yeah, it does look like we will be going towards something quite a bit milder there into the final week or so of February. Not set in stone, but definitely seeing that as probably a favoured solution. Just given how the latest runs have gone, how they have transitioned to a stronger westerly flow, I do think that will be the most likely outcome for the rest of the month. And we'll be able to see that on the latest GFS. You can see those easterlies come up against the westerlies at the moment. Have a bit of success initially, and we do see some cold conditions through the weekend, but eventually those westerlies winds do win out. The block to our north disintegrates away into the final 10 days of February, and look at this, a bit of an Atlantic onslaught. Yes, high pressure makes a bit of an influence at times, but with the tropospheric polar vortex really powering up towards Greenland and northern Canada, then yeah, it does look like we could be setting up quite an unsettled and stormy end of February and start of March. Can't rule out further colder conditions, definitely is a possibility into end of February, early March, but the risk of widespread proper wintry conditions starts to really diminish in the coming days and weeks, and that's because we're just simply getting to longer days, stronger sunlight, and it all leads to more difficulty producing those very cold air masses towards our shores and keeping very cold air at the surface. Of course, with this longer days and stronger sunshine, warms up those days a lot more than we saw even a couple of weeks ago. And that makes all the difference later on in the winter. And that's why, as I said, the risk of something substantial is going to rapidly diminish over the next 2, 3, 4 weeks to something, really remote chance of any major snow as we get towards late March and early April. The risk is there, of course, we've seen it in the past, but it does look like that this winter, for wintriness, for snowfall and for actual proper winter weather, could be coming to an end. You can never say never as we do head into early spring, but from the looks of the latest runs, February looks like it's probably now going to be reasonably mild from kind of early to middle of next week. And of course, unless something drastic happens in March, then it probably won't see anything as too severe. Now, do look at the latest GM. Again, this real battle at the moment. If you just look at this chart in isolation, you'd think we're going into a very cold spell, but the block just isn't strong enough and it's not correctly positioned, and we go into a westerly flow into the middle of next week. It takes a bit longer to break through, but eventually it does it towards day 10, And you can see the Atlantic tries to completely dominate, but we do see high pressure building back in. So although yes, it is a milder west to southwesterly wind, it's under more higher pressure, so it would actually be drier and probably more pleasant. Now finally, if we check out the latest ECMWF again, you can see this battle going on at the moment. Eventually the Atlantic wins out, and similar to the GFS, it is a bit of an Atlantic onslaught. Yes, high pressure could just nudge in there towards day 10, but at least towards the middle and latter part of this run, prior to that kind of final frame or so, it does look like a lot of low pressure will be rattling in off the Atlantic. Not nice at all. Now to finish and have a look at the latest ensembles, the worst ensembles for kind of cold weather that we've seen in a number of weeks, and that's because all of those very cold runs have pretty much disappeared. Now you can see the coming days hovering around average. Surface though is going to be much, much colder, so it doesn't tell the full picture in the next sort of 5 to 7 days, but beyond that those upper air temperatures just nudge up. Precipitation starts to increase around the 21st, 22nd, and that is signs of the Atlantic conditions really starting to dominate. Yes, potentially back towards average longer term, not expecting massively mild conditions. It is going to still contain colder air masses. Probably an Atlantic zonal pattern where we see colder, milder sectors oscillating and alternating. But the big thing is we do start to see an uptick in the dew points again, so milder conditions are favoured. But we can see, at least in the short term, next 5, 6, maybe 7 days, not getting much above 6, 7, 8 degrees. So still quite cold, with overnight frost, especially the next 3 or 4 days, if we're back potentially to double digits coming the 21st, 22nd of the month. And the ECMWF is in agreement as well. Again, quite a substantial shift there towards above average by the 21st, 22nd. A lot more precipitation, so definitely favouring that milder solution now. And you can see that from those 2 metre temperatures as well. Cold over the next 5, 6, 7 days, and then turning milder. And sea level pressure dropping, or at least being a lot more up and down in the longer term as well. So no guarantees that it definitely goes milder, but definitely that trend for that last week to 10 days of the month is definitely there now. Hopefully we do see a change. Even if we don't see very cold conditions, at least something a bit drier and more pleasant, maybe even spring-like, would be beneficial. But at the moment, we're still a little bit up in the air, but definitely seeing a confidence building in at least that slightly milder, more Atlantic-driven pattern to develop into the final 10 days of the month. But as I said, though, next few days, still got wintry hazards to deal with, a bit of snow as possible. Definitely going to see some frosts, quite harsh frosts, and generally cold days. But yeah, slowly going to turn milder from around Tuesday, Wednesday next week. So anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you again for another video soon.